Hey guys, it's a little earlier than it usually is for me to get my video done, but I'm not going to be here for all of the afternoon because I have a doctor's appointment because I got a stupid sinus infection right here. Jerk of a sinus infection. At any rate, today's post is titled "It's Raining Men" because I just couldn't resist, and also because I couldn't find a clean version of the song by, I think it's Aloe Blacc, right? I'm the Man. I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man. And I was listening to that all last night because of the NFL draft, and because it's an awesome song, but I couldn't find the clean version, so I couldn't put it as the title, so I couldn't put the video in the post, but it's a great song. It has a lot to do with overcoming obstacles too, which is pretty cool, especially for some of the stories that were being shared in the NFL draft. Anywho, back to the book, because a lot went down today. And we talked about a lot. As a matter of fact, we started on the first page of I'm a Man Now with an exercise in how to identify context clues and how they can help us with even really big medical terminology to at least understand the function of the words, even if we don't know the exact definition of the words. So I gave a written explanation down below the post, but I'll go really quickly through this. This is the doctor speaking. He says, "Listen, Mr. Alper, I've been on and off the phone with your son's pediatrician all morning. I'm concerned about Jeffrey's hepatic function." And we went, huh? Hepatic? But then we kept reading because we know context clues allow us to go back, and being an active reader means this sometimes, that we have to keep searching for the meaning throughout the paragraph. So let's keep going. This is on page 233. "His ALT has climbed sharply over the past week, and I want Dr. Perot to keep an eye on your son's blood counts and transaminase numbers for the next couple of weeks." Worse, Mr. Cat. Keep reading. The paragraph's not over yet. The context hasn't been divulged yet. "If the AST climbs too, we'll need to know about it. Of course, we'll be running our own tests here every week, but liver trouble is nothing to mess around with, and I want to be extremely cautious as long as Jeffrey is on such high doses of 6-MP and methotrexate." We heard a word that we know in there, and it was related to the rest of the whole paragraph. We heard the word liver. So when we see at the beginning of the paragraph, I'm concerned about his hepatic function, and then later we talk about liver, we go, hepatic must have to do with liver. Okay. Well, I also noticed that there was ALT, transaminase, AST, and we need to know about it. Well, what does he say? I'm going to ask to keep an eye on your son's blood counts. So we're going to assume that since we're going to keep an eye on your son's blood counts occurred within that one sentence area of blood counts, we're going to assume, because we're good readers and because we're using our context clues, that ALT, AST, and transaminase are all part of the blood count. And probably the blood count that relates most closely to hepatic functioning, which as we know now means liver. And then we also now know why that's such an issue. "I want to be extremely cautious as long as Jeffrey is on such high doses of 6-MP and methotrexate." Well, we use that word doses to say doses of. What do we take doses of? Medication. High doses of methotrexate and 6-MP. Well, medication is supposed to help us. Why would it affect his liver? These must be chemotherapy drugs, which we know deteriorates the body so that the transplant can build it back up. You see how using context clues and not freaking out about words allows us to get back in and get at the meaning, even if we don't fully understand every single word here. And we flip the page, and by the way, the doctor gives us almost word for word exactly what we just figured out on our own. It's on page 234. He says, okay, hepatic equals liver. The liver's job is to filter the blood. Thank you, context clues. When a child is on as many heavy-duty chemotherapy drugs as Jeffrey is, the liver takes a beating. Thank you, context clues. We check the blood levels of certain enzymes periodically in order to make sure the liver is handling the strain adequately. Thank you, context clues. If the liver begins to sustain damage, the enzyme levels should theoretically give us some warning. Then we have to adjust the patient's meds until we get the chemo regimen in balance with the patient's liver function. Thank you, context clues. Again, don't underestimate the power of being a quality reader. If you use those context clues, which we know a quality active reader does, we can understand these things. We didn't even need the doctor to explain to Dad, but he did anyway, and that confirmed for us that our use of context clues is working. That's one thing. Next thing I wanted to talk about that we talked about in class. Mrs. Galley gives Stephen a book about childhood cancer, and it's super thick, and he's like, yeah, this is the last thing I want to read right now. I'm living it. I don't need to know all about all this. But then he changes his tune and says, you know what? I need to focus on the things I can change. I can change my mindset about this, and I can understand as much as I possibly can about what Jeffrey's going through, both physically and mentally and emotionally probably. And guess what? Dad follows Stephen's example as well. He starts reading the book too. These are two men who are showing some maturity. And yes, I did very specifically call Stephen a man now, because that's what Dad says. He's evolving into a very nice young man. It's all about this maturity, and these themes keep coming up over and over again, so much so that they're becoming central themes. Well, we know as quality readers that when central themes keep coming up over and over and over again and wind up changing the main character, that's usually by the design or the purpose of the author, and that might put up a flag in our heads that, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, I almost said goodness, and I almost said gosh, and I said gush. Whatever. That's for you. I'm not even going to put on the outtakes. I'm just going to put it right on here. Oh my gosh, the way the main character changes is what I'm supposed to take in as a main idea. Now, we don't know yet because we can't evaluate main idea until we're on the other end. But it's a pretty big indicator that these central themes that are changing Stephen and the other characters in the book, but mostly Stephen, they're what the author wants us to focus on as we're reading. Great stuff. Next. Mom and Jeffrey are on their way home from the doctor on the day of Stephen's big concert, and Stephen gets called into the office. Now he's terrified, right? He thinks something's wrong immediately. Well, nothing's wrong. Mom's just like, no, nothing's wrong. I just thought you might like to spend some time with your family on the ride home before your big day. And he has to make a choice. Does he ride the bus with Annette and Renee, who are both so clearly into him, and he seems to be into both of them at the moment? That's a little love triangle that might work out in a weird way that you might be predicting about. Or he can go with his brother, who says, Stephen, wait, I want to see you. I missed you. They did me a spinal tap and it was scary. And Stephen goes, sigh, so long my girls, hello my boy. Again, this maturity that's creeping in, this dynamism of Stephen's character, this change in Stephen's character is stuff to focus on as we continue to get really close to the end here. Also, they arrive at this concert, and I do want to touch on this moment because it's a major event, but it's also just really one of those things that we've been talking about how you never know who wants to help and how they want to help and how they can help unless you allow people into your life. The entire All-City Jazz Band shaved their heads, boys and girls, to support Jeffrey on this big concert night. That's incredible. In addition to all the money they raised, it's one thing to raise money, but they altered their appearance for the next bunch of months as a show of support to the family. This was major event number 8, by the way. This decision that they made to shave their heads in a show of support for the family. And it's really, really very interesting because we get all of the people's reactions. Stephen wants to cry. Mom is crying. Jeffrey thinks it's totally awesome. He's high-fiving everybody. And, oh, by the way, Dad, who said he wasn't going to show up at this concert, shows up, and he gets really weirded out. And we know that the reason he wasn't showing up is because he's afraid to ask for help, as we are a lot of the time as people. But again, we're starting to get this notion that people are evolving, people are changing, and they're starting to become more mature. And all of these interactions are really leading up to this sense that we never understand fully the connection we can make until we try to make it. Stephen even mentions this, and this was where we ended in some of the classes today. He says, I've never experienced anything like it, but I knew that the entire point of playing music was to hope that once in a while you could bring this feeling to an audience of people. And of course, you know me, I got really excited and I stopped everything and I said, guys, are you seeing what's happening here? I call it English life arts for a reason. He said the entire reason is to be able to communicate with an audience. With an audience! We take in as we write and as we try to communicate or as we sing or as we perform or as we whatever. Any type of art is based in communication. Can the audience understand a part of who we are based on the art we create? And if they can, that means they can connect to us and fully communicate effectively in a way that changes all of us in the community. That's the root of communication, right? Community? Well, that's not the root, but commune, which means to interact, to be a part of a larger group. Communal. Guys, I hope you're noticing some of the amazing themes that are running through this book that have run through our entire year. And I hope you're really starting to see that our knowledge of plot structure and narrative structure and how the literary elements work together and how an author uses the 6 traits of writing to really make sure an audience understands and can connect and can communicate fully with one another. I hope you're seeing that this is all coming together and that when you do whatever bonfire experience you do that a lot of you told me about happens at the end of the year where you burn your books, well, not your books, but you burn your notebooks and all your binders and this and that and blah, 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 and a big bonfire, just do me a favor, do yourself a favor, put your ELA stuff off to the side and don't burn it, because I swear to you, you will use this stuff the rest of your life. And I'm so excited that I get to be a part of this learning experience with you. Keep it up. You guys are really in tune with this book, and it's because you're finally doing all of those things that we've been talking about and practicing all year on your own. You're really actively reading, and that's allowing you to fully connect. I love it. Keep it up. Have a great weekend. Have a safe weekend. It's supposed to be beautiful outside like it is right now. Please don't let that make you forget that you have to make smart decisions. Okay? See you on Monday. Whoa, I almost just fell over. Whee! All right, I'll see you guys on Monday. Have a great weekend.